Again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today we are here to talk about Back to University, preparing your campus to help ensure student and faculty safety. Just a few items of housekeeping. The first, everyone is on mute. So if you have a question, please feel free to enter it into the questions or chat sections, and we will answer those questions towards the end of the presentation. Also, we are recording this and we will be sending it out after the webinar has concluded. So with that, I'd like to introduce our presenters, starting with our moderator, Joanne Mann. She's the head of Asia Pacific for Archibus Fairview. And I'm going to turn it over to Joe to introduce the rest of our presenters and get us started.
Thanks, Danielle, and welcome everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce the people that you can hopefully see on screen today. We are missing one who can't quite get his camera to work, but you can see a photo of him. So first of all, though, I'd like to welcome Barbara Robinson. Barbara is from the University of Queensland. She has over 20 years experience in universities, is part of the Property and Facilities Department, and her current role is managing space for the University of Queensland. And she's going to share with us today some of her challenges she has in addressing getting back and getting staff and students back into campus life. So welcome, Barbara. On our panel also, we have 4 wonderful gentlemen from some of our business partner across the region. So first of all, Millard Saad. Millard is from Australia. So he's the CEO of ICAD Consultants. Paul Unting is the gentleman you can't see, but you can see his photo there. He's the Chief Innovation Officer for Microcorp in Malaysia, one of our other key business partners in that region. And Sridhar Sarawati, I hope I've said that right. He's the Senior Vice President for another business partner all the way from India, very early in the morning, but great to have you on the panel today, Sridhar. He's from Microsoft, and of course myself. So with that, we'll get into the presentation itself. But before we go into Barbara's presentation, I just wanted to talk a little bit more globally and have a look at some of the guidelines that we are starting to see come out across the regions. So we are having a phased and gradual resumption of activities across the university. I think this will depend on everybody's region, everybody's government regulations, and in particular, the start of either your school semester, your university semester, or coming back from holidays in some of the other places. So that will dictate very much what this looks like. There is widespread testing and contact tracing, and we know that's critical in the current environment. Isolation and quarantine of ill and exposed individuals is necessary. And of course, meticulous adherence to physical distancing and frequent disinfection of common and high traffic areas are going to become the new normal as we start facing this comeback to university and campus life. Just moving on from those, I think there is a lot of facility considerations, and I'm sure from a university point of view, we are all familiar with these. I'm certainly not going to read out every single bullet point, and I will challenge you to try and see some of the words on the screen at the moment, but I think we all know in APAC, certainly we talk about 1.5 meters or 6 feet between workstations, providing hand sanitizers, monitoring and secure inventories of our PPE and all those other things we're going to have to use, and enhanced cleaning. And I think as we go through the conversation today, it will be good to see how some of this relates to our region and of course Barbara's experience from an SME point of view. There have been some surveys already done, and this couple of surveys you see on screen at the moment are from the ACHA, which is the American College Health Association, and it was for all the presidents to respond to the likelihood for them of in-person classes resuming. And you can see from that survey the dark blue or possibly black there's over 50% saying that they will resume in-person classes, and there's still some down the other end that are very unsure. And then also for their on-campus housing operations, a big percentage again are saying that it's very likely that they will have those back up and running again, of course with all the restrictions that we have around health for those. And the next survey that was done is some of the things that they are looking to do when they do resume in person. So, you know, establishing residential space on campus to quarantine. Interesting for me, 53% have said that they require masks to be worn on campus. It'll be interesting to see if we follow suit in our own regions to do that as well. And also require regular temperature screening for students. So 33% of them have said that. So there's some interesting statistics starting to come through as we start to open up these areas. So Barbara, I know you've got lots of experience in this space, and we're really keen to understand the challenges that you are addressing from a University of Queensland point of view. So I'm going to hand over to you right now and let you talk through some of those challenges and some of the things you've done to find solutions to those.
Thanks very much, Jo. Thanks for the invite here. Yes, I might come with a lot of experience, but of course, this is the first pandemic for just about all of us. And there's a lot that's new, a lot that's uncertain. So really, that's been my first point. The challenge is the uncertainties. You know, we don't know how long will this pandemic last? How long will it be before we get back to some sense of normality? How long will it be before we get international students back on campus? Will they actually even come back on campus? How long will it be that, you know, the university's finances can actually survive in these challenging times? Will we have physical distancing? Will it ease off? You know, we've had rules that have changed from 4 square meters into 1.5 meter distance between people, which is, you know, far more onerous than just the 4 square meters of space. We're providing on-campus offerings as well as online offerings. And I also mentioned in-placement offerings. All our students that went out to schools, clinics, hospitals, etc., most of them, once the pandemic set in, lost their positions there. They need those placements as part of their accreditation so that they can graduate. And we're really focused on making sure that all our students can graduate in the sort of time frame that they were expecting to. And so, yeah, the challenges for some of them is really pretty high if they can't get the practical experience. There's also a duplication in workload for a lot of staff, because if you're doing some things online and some things in class, it takes different skill sets, and you know, sort of sometimes it just means you'll end up doing twice as much. And of course, a lot of people had their ordinary job and they're trying to cope with COVID on top of it in their personal lives and obviously in the workplace. Questions of how to handle crowds in lunchrooms and restrooms. At our university, we've basically set it up to local areas to try and manage their lunchrooms. In the foyers, we looked at all the pressure points of where we had a lot of teaching rooms, and so at class changeover time, there'd be a high number of students moving in and out, and we've actually decided we'll need to have monitors in place to help monitor so that we don't sort of get chaos as everyone streams in and out. Public transport in Queensland, the buses haven't reduced the seat capacity, so they've just left it up to users to decide whether they want to get on a bus or not. And recently we've had problems with students who came onto campus to do an online exam and then complained that they couldn't get home late at night because the buses were too crowded, so they thought they'd wait for the next one, and then sometimes there wasn't a next one. how does one handle communication to staff and students? That's been a really big challenge. And I think, you know, some universities have obviously done it better than others, but when you're not quite sure what to communicate, it is very hard to do a good, clear communication that's on time and really relevant. And we know with our students that if we tell them that they're going to do something online or in class, once we've told them at the beginning of the semester, we have to stick to that. We can't halfway through say, oh, well, now the pandemic is easing off, so now you can come on campus, because some of them will have made other arrangements and it will be impossible. So while we can always offer students more choices, we can never actually take choices away once they've accepted offers. We have to create a new timetable. You know, we've got new work teams. We've had about 3 rapid response teams working across the university. One that I was involved with was basically for the timetable and how we're going to be teaching. There have been others on delivering online exams, which the university had been moving to slowly, probably like many others, and now suddenly had to do it really fast. And there's definitely been problems to overcome there, and obviously, you know, some student complaints and deferrals, and that leads to further issues. We've done a big review of physical cleanliness and the HVAC systems, and got lots of advice from specialists about what works, what doesn't work, and cleaning filters and testing air. And we've tried to reduce the touch points around the university, again, to try and reduce the number of potential COVID transmissions. I've called it identifying problem rooms. That's to do with the reference of the 1.5 meter person to person separation rule. So we looked at all our teaching rooms and found that our capacity went down to 15,000 seats. We've had a 75% reduction in capacity, and that's been sort of working out to 1.5 meter distances, and wherever you've got fixed furniture and you've got less flexibility, it really reduces numbers. The office capacity also reduced. While at the moment we are working half at home, half back in the office, we don't think we'll be back 100% in the office for possibly the rest of the year. So therefore we can cope with the reduction in the number of workstations. The capacity in general space, such as meeting rooms, lunch rooms, has also reduced. The other interesting thing is in lunch rooms, you don't have communal cups and saucers anymore. It's been bring your own or use disposable. So yes, and with reference to restrictions of more than 100 people, now that's a rule that we had in Australia. I don't know if it's going to change. We suspect it is, but we identified all the rooms that had more than 100. Once you've applied your 4 square meter rule or 1.5 meter separation, most of those dropped below, but we still have a few rooms with more than 100. So obviously we've lost capacity there. And we also looked at all the floors where we have open plan offices and potentially had more than 100 people on a floor. So had to put in, signage, etc. for those. Yeah, so that's basically the challenge. Part of the solution has been they delayed the semester, but only by a week. But that has still bought us a little bit of time. So we, in my team, we looked at Archibus to get all the room capacities and the room areas, and then did the formulas to work out the new capacities. One of the challenges here was that, it's not clear what people want to know. Do they want to know the maximum number of people that are allowed into the room, or do they want to know the maximum number of people that the room can contain under these new restrictions? So in a teaching room, it was actually fairly straightforward. If you had 60 seats normally and you worked out your separation, you might drop to 30 seats or a bit less. And then you would say, well, you're allowed 30 people in the room, so you can have one instructor and you can have 29 students. In an office, we said, well, if you've got a 12 square meter office and you normally only have one person in the office, even though you could in theory have 2 or 3 people in that office, we will say you have one person. And then we got objections from people saying, but that means nobody can come into my office to have a meeting with me. And, you know, you kind of think, well, okay, I mean, you know, so what do you need to know? Do you need to know the maximum number, or do you need to know the working number? It's been a challenge, yeah. So we've also had to pull out floor plans and measure the 1.5 meter distances and draw little circles where people sit to see whether they overlap. In some cases, we've had to do site visits because our furniture plans were not up to date. So that was a bit of extra work. Then we created signs for all the rooms. So we have over 20,000 rooms. We used a mail merge in Word document and used our Archibus recalculated capacity data. We put up all the ones in central teaching rooms and common spaces, and then it was up to faculties and other groups to put the signs up in their area. And I mean, this was another big exercise that went to and fro. We first of all called it social distancing. Then we were told the correct term is physical distancing. So, you know, you take the signs back. By the time we got the signs out to everyone, we found that some of the faculties and schools had already created their own signs and put them up. So, and now they've told us that they actually don't want signs up to say what the capacity is, because it might be that the government regulation changes. So what we should really say is keep 1.5 meters apart. So now we have some humorous little signs up with a brush turkey on one side and Archibus on the other side, which are the sort of classic birds of our St. Lucia, Queensland campus, saying, keep your distance. We've provided data to other departments. Obviously, the most important one was the timetabling department. And on the rapid response team for the timetabling also came up with a list of priorities. So each faculty was told they had to list all the bookings that they want in semester 2 according to the sort of highest priority needs. So the highest priority need was for the students who need on-campus sessions for graduating, and then they had to work down the line. They were also told that if there are too many requests, they will be limited to 1 hour per class per week. The idea there is that we can maximize how many students can come on campus to enjoy that social experience while still working within our limited resources, which are roughly only about 25% of what we would normally manage. Health and safety wanted information, and yes. So we've also had to work at a local level to determine class sizes, and particularly in laboratories where there's different kinds of activities that happen. We can't just look at a floor plan and work it out. The local people need to work it out. At UQ also, local people were told they might need to manage the back to work for the staff and decide how many staff can come back to work safely. And, you know, a lot of areas have made 2 teams so that they alternate. We've had to deploy staff to rearrange or remove furniture. So in lecture theatres, we've put tape across certain rows so that you only use alternate rows. We've removed some chairs in places, and there's a big need for extra storage across the university at the moment because everybody wants to declutter the space so that they can actually get more people in and more space for people to move around in. We've provided, we're going to have people to monitor the crowds at class changeover times. Those will be students. They will hope that people will line up outside if the weather's good, and then sort of see that they clear the rooms first and then let the new group in. Providing hand sanitizers, and one of the issues there has been that everybody wants to buy hand sanitizers, so you're not sure you can actually buy enough and then deploy them everywhere. And we've changed some of our high traffic doors to automatic doors, again, to reduce touch points, and there's extra cleaning. Another point that I didn't actually put on the slide is that we've had to invest in a lot more technology, particularly in our teaching rooms, so that lecturers can do Zoom from the teaching rooms. And again, that's where our university was competing against every other university in the region, because everyone, of course, wants to buy the same things at the same time. And I know for some microphones, we were apparently, we had to pay 3 times the normal price. And lecturers also want rooms where they can pre-record things. So there's a lot of that. We are still going to possibly amend our design guidelines and our space standards. Recently, we'd worked through the exercise maybe that will change now, but I'm sure we will see a lot more agile workplaces in the future, and hopefully, you know, well-designed spaces with lots of breakout space and all. Yes, so that's basically mine, and I'm looking forward to hearing some of the solutions and questions from everyone. Thanks, Jo.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Barbara. You think in a pandemic like this, like the rest of us, I think we naively thought, well, the university's just closed down and everybody just goes home and goes online. But certainly some huge challenges there, and when you're trying to bring them back, massive. I do have a question before we go into the panel questions, though. From a staff point of view and thinking about yourself personally, was there a fair bit of work from home before the pandemic hit? So were people kind of used to doing that, or has this been another change that they've had to face?
I would say certainly in a place like my department, working from home didn't happen. You might manage to work from home 2 days a year because you were working on something that you really needed to concentrate on, but there was no normal, even flexible working in the office wasn't actually a normal. So you know, everybody has had their own desk. They've turned up every day. So it was quite different to work from home. I would say we spent about a week or two preparing people for the idea that they're going to work from home, figuring out what equipment they would need to take home from the office to make it work, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that seems to be a typical story even across business, where, you know, people had maybe ergonomic chairs that needed to be taken home because, you know, they were special for that particular person. So challenges all around. Danielle, I might just pause there for a moment before we go into the panel questions and see if there are any questions that anybody wanted to ask of Barbara.
Sure, let me check really quickly. I do not see any questions yet, but I will definitely keep an eye on. And just as a reminder, you can type your question into, there's a question section and there's also a chat section. So either one of those, you can type your questions in.
Fabulous, thanks Danielle, and we'd love to hear from some people on the call. So we'll move now into more of a panel discussion, of which Barbara's going to be a part of, if she'd like to be. So I'm sure she's got some real live comments that might come up, but we'll move into the panel discussion now and see what our experts on the call have to say. So the first question I have is, what are some tips for tracking which staff will return to campus in each phase or shift? So if you're on the panel, what suggestions have you got that we could use?
Well, I mean, I think at our university it's really done at a local level. So in my department, they're actually sort of gave everyone a shift that they should work, and they've set a date for in the middle of July where we think we will all be back on campus, all going well. I guess it's not really tracking staff in any other kind of sense. Yeah.
Thanks, Barbara. And gentlemen on the panel, Millard, Paul, Sridhar, anything you can think of that people could use?
If I may, Joe?
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, thanks. All right. As far as tracking is concerned, now we're looking at an alternative schedule, right? So this presents a different scheduling that we need to take into account. So as much as the data in the system that we can utilize now, we can create a new floor plan density to accommodate for this new schedule, the shift working and those that works from home. And then I use this different shift scenario for tracking alternate days, or probably night shifts and day shifts and a weekly schedule. It depends. So this is among the things that we can utilize the system, the features and the data to manage the scheduling further and tracking, of course.
Right, thanks, Paul. And Millard, did I hear your voice there?
Yes, I just want to also comment on the way staff may return. Specifically in University of Queensland, we work closely with the HR, where we can Archibus and the HR know where people, when people work, and there's a timetable, kind of shift working environment where we can know if they're working full-time and or part-time. I think this now probably is more in a need, because initially we had to forecast the space requirement and who can use what. I think this will be probably another area to explore, because in Australia, and I know private organizations, that they need to track who comes to the office. They have to have a book. When did you come in? Probably university also, even it's not planning, is if when you are physically in the campus and on your desk, you need to be also reporting that. So again, Archibus can assist by integrating with the HR environment and get that report out either on text or a floor plan scenario.
Great.
Yeah, this is Sridhar. So I agree with Millard that if you take Indian scenario, here we have a lot of area lockdowns which are happening. So if a particular area has positive cases, they lock down that particular area. So if the staff or students are in that area, they will not be able to attend the classes in case if it has to come to university or the school. So the HR plays a vital role here. So who will actually see which are the lockdown areas and who are the students who will not be able to come to the classes? Based on that, the capacity will be calculated. It is not just that I have so many students and then so many things, and then this has to be divided as per physical distancing, and then this is how the number of seats will be occupied or the number of classrooms will be occupied. But it is beyond that, because the people needs to have confidence in coming in. So that's where the external data also has to be integrated with the system, and then that system should be able to understand what's exactly happening externally and then suggest a viable scenario. I think Archibus is excellent in doing that as per floor plans is concerned, and then the new feature of physical distancing which we have. All that will give you a lot of scope to put different scenarios into the space available, and then come up with the best scenario. And then the scenario should be dynamic, I would say. So with external data changing day by day, we can create multiple scenarios, and then those scenarios will give you the optimal space usage. So that would be the best way to do it.
Beautiful. Thanks, Rita. Barbara, have you found from a student point of view that there have been differing groups around whether they actually do want to come back? Has that been something that you're starting to address from a university point of view?
Most of our surveys of students have shown that they're actually quite happy with the online learning bit, but all of them want the social contact of being back on campus. Or maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. So there's definitely a keenness to come back. Our university has never really been closed. We haven't closed the libraries. People have been free to come. We're getting very low numbers at the moment, though. And yes, they seem to want to come back. So that it might be that once they're told they can come back, they will sort of flood back. But of course, like many people, things like lectures, all lectures will remain online because they are usually poorly attended in person anyway. So that's not the main thing they come for. They're coming for tutorial sessions and for socializing.
Great, thank you. So let's pop to the next question if we can, Danielle. Okay, so what are some different ways you can keep up with social distancing requirements for those that are using common areas such as libraries? I'm going to get Millard to kick this one off. So Millard, have you got some ideas around the social distancing, or what did you call it? Physical something, Barbara?
Yeah.
Yeah, the physical distances rather than, yeah, this is actually it's challenging. I had a chat to Barbara during the week, and our problem in Australia, and while we have at least a common 1.5 meter distancing, but we have different rules across the states. And if university have multiple campuses, how are they gonna change this, or how can they adapt to the environment or the campus that they are in? And this will change. I mean, this is dynamic. We could wake up tomorrow and things will make a difference. And currently in Australia, we experience problem in Victoria. And what Shreda has mentioned about having access to location and the students and where they are is important, because you want to isolate those students. So from common areas and library, I would refer back to use some of the applications that Archibus can help us with. And Barbara addressed one of them is, you need space to canteen or put a furniture. So you can use Archibus to look where the space that most likely will not be used temporary, and then you can use the move management application to move those equipment, furniture, and so on. Archibus allow you to do that. Also, you may need temporary spaces to expand your space, so you can actually spread people across. Again, you can use reservation, you can use hoteling, and these kind of the tools that allow us to think. One of the most important thing that I always refer to Archibus important is ability to visualize this, ability to be able to, what Barbara has done with her team, take those floor plans that already up to date and manage to put, the 1.5 dots or a map on top of the floor plan. So it's important. This is where Archibus is really important, to make sure we maintain this data, so when we have cases like that, we'll be able to react and do the thing that we need to do to be able to comply with the new requirement.
I think you're right, Millard. I think visualization seems to be a very key thing for people to be able to understand what's going on and have the confidence that that they are adhering, and everybody else is adhering to that physical distancing. Sriha, did you have anything more to add on that one?
Yeah, I think around 20 years back, I visited Singapore. The buses which fly will have a board displayed outside, saying that how many seats are available. So what it does is the moment the people get in and get out, it keeps counting, and then that count will be shown as a vacant seats. So I was very surprised. I mean, this was around 20 years back. And I think with IoT framework, which we have with a built-in Archibus platform, if we could do that and then have a display outside the rooms, saying that the capacity is nearing or the capacity is over. That would give the students very good visibility. At the same time, if they have a mobile app, so we can actually populate those floor plans and say, okay, this particular room or hall or library has reached its capacity. So he or she doesn't need to go to that place and see, yeah, this is full. So we are in a better position to combine IoT and mobile apps together and reduce the time for the people to move around, and then until I reach the room, I don't know whether it is full or not. That's not the question. So wherever I am, if I want to go to the library from my class, I would just open my mobile app and then see, yeah, this is vacant, so I can go there and I can use the reservation or hoteling, as Milad said, and yeah, I can go there and reserve the seat and then go there and sit. So it's a seamless integration. That's what I was trying to convey to the members.
Wow, if only we'd known 20 years ago we were going to be in the middle of a pandemic. Thanks, Rita. And Paul, did you?
Sorry, Siton, does Archibus have any sort of people counting ability at the moment, or are they working on it?
No, we have IoT framework which can actually integrate with any of the IoT systems which you install there. So it's just a sensor. The sensor will have in and out count. That in and out count will be tied up with any of your space management, and automatically when you try to see how much space is available, so it knows this capacity is reached or this capacity is not reached. Maybe we need to skip odd numbers so that we know the physical distancing is taken care. So it starts from 1, or even numbers. It starts from 1 and jumps to 3 instead of 2. So we can do that, and then it's a small script we can write, and then it should be able to do that.
Fantastic. Excellent.
And Joe, just really
Danielle,
quickly,
I'm just looking at time. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. I was just going to say there was a question that came in while Milad was speaking. The question was, do you use Archibus condition assessment to do this?
The question to me, Danielle?
Yes.
This is regarding the common areas. Sorry, I didn't get the question properly.
Yes.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah, I think it was when you were answering the question about the common areas such as libraries. We were just asking.
Okay.
If you
condition assessment is one of the probably in the next few the tools that you can use to be able to, prior to do the action, to basically audit your space and see what kind of things that you will be able to address. And condition assessment can be a great tool because you may decide on that space. It's not actually practical to be able to do any changes because it's going to impact enormously on that space rather than fix it. So condition assessment, yes, the answer is yes, it's a great tool, and also give us a summary, or what we call, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the scoreboard, which allows us to see which area we can tackle quickly and efficiently, and which area we're probably most likely going to cost us a lot, and we cannot really address that because it's probably not possible. I hope I answered the question.
Fantastic. You did. Thanks, Milad. Danielle, let's go on to the next question, and I'm just aware of the time. Okay. What are best practices for planning and implementing enhanced cleaning protocols? Paul, maybe you'd want to kick this one off.
Yeah, sure, Joe. Best practice in planning and implementing enhanced cleaning protocol. Now, this requires an overview of the facility. So with the visibility of the floor plan and the ability to visualize, it can actually go on a strategic level of positioning for example, the hand sanitizer, and the identifying areas where cleaning is most required and focusing the resources to address these areas. And there was another thing that I was very interested in earlier when Barbara was sharing the challenges. She was talking about identifying the contact points. So these, I believe, are very crucial elements to manage the spread of the virus. Reducing is a big effort. Identifying itself is also important to plan the cleaning and the management of these higher risk areas that might transmit the virus from one person to another. Now, Archibus does provide a platform where all these areas and elements can be identified and tagged so that people can refer to it. And this will be how the information get out. And everybody can look at this, and on their personal level, they'll be very aware. And on the cleaning and management level, action can be taken specifically to address these higher risk areas.
Fantastic. Thanks, Paul. Srihar, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I again insist on the fact that it has to be integrated solution. So Archibus being a single platform which gives multiple solutions or multiple applications on the same platform, what we can do is we can integrate the service request or the reservation request for the room reservation for the meetings and the timing tied up with the preventive maintenance and then the service request. And the moment the meeting gets over, there's an automated service request which generates for the cleaning purpose, and the cleaning staff will take care of it. And then only it'll allow the others to come in. It'll open up the next meeting. So what is the point I'm trying to convey is that there has to be communication between all the applications which we do. That's the main USP of Archibus. So Archibus can talk to the space management and then find out which space is actually reserved for that particular meeting, and it can know when the meeting got over, and then the moment it knows that the meeting got over, it can automatically generate a service request, and then the maintenance staff can come and clean, and we can even give the flags to them. So if the meeting room is clean, then they can just press a button on their mobile app or something like that, and then it can open up for others. So this is what I mean. I'm more of integration guy, I would say. So I would like to integrate the external data with the requirement because it will give you the overall picture of what exactly is happening across the organization or the university than addressing only the isolated thing. That's where I mean that's what is required in this current situation, because we don't know who, where, when, what is happening. So if we have the data which is integrated across, then the decision which we make will be the best decision.
That's fantastic. Barbara, question for you. Before the pandemic, would you have cleaned meeting rooms, common areas, all those many times through the day? And is that just increased? Or would you have done it at night for the next day?
Well, about 2 years ago, we introduced daytime cleaning across the university. The main emphasis there was to save money, but we only clean spaces once, possibly only a thorough cleaning once a week. So the difference now is that there's hand sanitizers everywhere and desk wipes, and people are told you must clean your own desk. Obviously, in the public areas, it's a bit different, but we're not cleaning every classroom after the class has been in there. So really, students are being told it's hand sanitizers.
Right.
Yeah.
Take that responsibility yourself. Fantastic. Next question we've got, Danielle. How can a university better prepare staff as they come back and get ready to receive students? All right, Sridhar, do you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, so it's all human perspective, Joe, because once I'm confident that if I go to the university or class, I'll be safe, then I will make an effort to go to university or the class. If I'm not confident that if I go there, I may not be safe, then I may not make a decision to go there. So the communication plays a major role in communicating to the people, saying that these are the steps which we are taking, and these are the entire process works, and these are the SOPs we have. There's nothing wrong in telling them how we are trying to manage the situation, because everybody is in that situation. The people will understand that, yeah, you have taken care of it, so I can dare to come there and then sit in the class and then enjoy my class and go back with the knowledge. So that part of it has to be very properly done to the people. I think we have this emergency preparedness and then health and safety modules, which will actually give you a lot of scope to do a lot of things inside, and then spread it as a communication to the students and the staff, who will have the confidence, yes, the university has taken care of our well-being, so we can be safe there. I think that's most important, because building the confidence in the people that we are there for you should actually give them more confidence.
Fantastic. And Millard, did you want to add anything to this?
Yes, I just want to give a practical example of the usage of Archibus, and specifically in our current environment. In some of our client education university, we have emergency preparedness module there, but the thought of using it was more toward, a terrorist attack, a bomb attack, and so on. And now we have the same application. We're going to think of a different one, which is invisible, enemy. And I will definitely agree with Syed about communication, and that the module is being used for this particular reason. You can put your group, what systems and what subsystems that need to be informed and so on. That's a really great tool. Another thing, because you didn't give me, Joe, the time to comment on the cleaning, another practical example I want to mention, that when we do preventive maintenance in Archibus, and everyone say, why Archibus has 4 ways of treating. If you guys are familiar with Archibus, you remember, step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4, where you can actually have the same preventive maintenance, but 4 different configuration or frequency, 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is now a practical example how you use it. So if you are cleaning a particular space once a day, you can quickly go into Archibus now and turn on frequency 2 and increase it to twice a day, or twice a week, or 3 times a week. And this is where Archibus will be helpful if you have the data there, quickly to be able to react and adapt to the current situation. One more comment about health and safety. We do find this a lot from our government now. There is compliance, and health and safety is really a good start, because it can comply with all the requirement that you need from a law or a government, and can be configured. And we have a case with the government where we're now working hard with them to be able to configure that application to be able to react to current and future environment.
Good points, good points. And Paul, anything from you?
Yeah, well, Millard and Sridhar got it spot on. Now, the main tools, the emergency preparedness and health and safety module, and the preventive maintenance, okay, all this is very, very useful and very, very critical tools that organization can utilize to prepare people to get back to the campuses, right? The keywords is about communications and to install confidence in people. We're not just saying that about the risk that is present now. We have identified the risk, we identified the mitigations, right? But we need to communicate all this clearly to the people who are actually facing this risk on a daily basis, so that everybody have the knowledge to control it better, right?
Yeah, it's a great point, Paul. Thank you for that. Yeah. And I think communication in all walks of life is one of the key things. I think we get so busy doing that sometimes we do forget to communicate. So it's a very good point to note going forward. Danielle, I'm not sure if that is the end of our questions or if we did have one more.
Well, I do have a few questions from the audience I thought maybe we could tackle. So
Beautiful.
The first one is, do you have any recommendations on how to handle students with symptoms?
Well, at the University of Queensland, they've told any student with symptoms must stay away, stay home, call the health line, take themselves off to a clinic and get tested, and only come back if their test is positive. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
so in our office we made a SOP saying that if anybody is symptomatic and then he or she has to be isolated in a separate room, so we have made a room for it, and he or she has to sit there till if a doctor addresses it, and then based on the doctor's suggestion, and then we have the list of hospitals around, and he or she will be shifted to that particular hospital first, and then the important people will be communicated saying that this is what is happening with your ward, and the further steps will be taken care from there on. So the idea is, if I think my the person sitting next to me being symptomatic, but most of the people don't want to tell that I'm a symptomatic guy. So if that is the case, then I should be able to have a sort of communicating tool with me saying that, okay, there is something going wrong here. So based on that, there'll be isolation procedure, and then within the campus or within the building, and from there on, the next procedure will take care by the government or the officials.
Right, thank you.
Great, thank you. The next question, I think this is going back to what, Sweetheart, you were saying earlier. The question is, since Archibus has space management and currently scanning temperature is a SOP to enter the building, can you integrate the scanner QR code and space management so you can immediately identify the user of the space in the building before they enter to the building so the report of the occupancy can be immediately generated?
Yeah, it is, yes, but I haven't seen that practically, but technically it is possible.
Okay, great, thank you. I think we may have one last question if we want to. I know we have about 6 minutes left. We want to maybe just answer this one quickly.
Okay, how can a university... You go.
Go ahead.
Okay, so how can a university better plan for future outbreaks or crises?
Well, I might jump in with one. We need to review what our key areas are. We need to be ready to start early. And we need to try and be very clear about what direction we're taking. For instance, if you say no research allowed or only no research except COVID, that's a challenge. At UQ, they kind of said, work at home if you can. If you've got research that you really have to do, then you've got to manage it locally and talk to health and safety. I know that maybe in the future we will have a sort of crisis management team set up ready for these things. We didn't have, and those universities that did have were certainly ahead of us at the time. So, yeah.
Lessons learned, Barbara, lessons learned. It's great to have those lessons though, isn't it? Gentlemen, any last comments from you on this one before we wrap this up?
Yes, Joe, I have one comment. Again, this is, how we prepare ourselves. I mean, with having all the data and information as accurate as possible, to have it in our system, to maintain it, it's very important, because based on this data that you have in hand, you'll be able to basically modify your plan or react to the current situation. Again, as the two examples that we want to refer to, having inaccurate floor plans as much as you can, having the emergency preparedness information there ready for, outbreak, and have your health and safety compliance, at least to make sure that you're compliant with what the current rules are. And if the rule changed on you, then you'll be able to go and adapt. And this is something we're going to see more and more. And one of the things that I think one of the question of the audience about, what happened if someone have a symptom. Yes, these one of the rules that you straight away go and test, and you will not be able to come back unless you've proven that you've done the test. These kind of things that unfortunately we have to live with it until we find a cure.
Absolutely.
Yes, Joe.
So,
Absolutely.
There are multiple things. I mean, first thing is there'll be a form which has to be signed by the person who enters, because it is something like you went to an adventure sport and then you need to sign a form. And similar to that, the people have to take responsibility themselves, because there are rules, there are setups which have been done in the university, but there could be a risk which you are taking as a person. So we should be ready to take that risk. So that form has to be signed as per the government compliances. And then once you know that you are inside, so you should be able to know the entire procedures what are happening. At the same time, from the organization or university perspective, the rules are changing, as Millard said, based on the situation which is happening outside. So today they would say, okay, 50 people are the max, and then tomorrow they might say 10 people are max. So you should be ready with multiple scenarios created with your own knowledge, and then see, what if this happens? How would I react to it? So those scenario creations are most important thing, based on the worst conditions and then the best conditions. Best condition would be the back to normal. Worst condition should be the way we are doing now. And there will be a combination of online and offline classes. There has to be innovation which comes up and then says, okay, these are the things which you can do online, and these are the things which you need to do on yourself, and then these are the things which you need to come to the school or college or the university. So based on that, I mean, that means there is again a coordination between the educational department as well as the HR and as well as the maintenance or FM together. So all data has to come together and then take a holistic look at it. And then Archibus is a technology which is marvelous, I would say. We're working with Archibus for 10 years last. I know how it works. You can do miracles with that, but how far you want to use it depends on the organization, how they want to use it. So we can create multiple scenarios, we can adapt to the situations, and then we can do the compliance management, so many things. So how best we want to use it, it depends on the organization, how far they want to go.
Thank you, Shrika. I think we might have to stop there because we're coming up to time. So I'll hand back to Danielle just to finish this up. She's got a couple of things she wanted to discuss.
Yes, thank you. I'll be very quick. We've already gone through the questions. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of a couple of things. The first is our health and safety offer. So we are offering free new licenses of our health and safety application through the end of September of next year. So it's available to all existing Archibus customers with an active software subscription contract. And it's available on any version of Archibus Web Central where the health and safety application is available. And it is subject to the same support as all other Web Central applications. So you can find more information about that at this link here. It's just info.archibus.com/EHS-offer. The other item I wanted to point out is we do have a Getting Back to Work resource center where we're posting all of our COVID-related resources and materials. So that site is info.archibus.com/back-to-work. So we have a lot of great interviews and blog posts just about how different companies are getting back to work and using Archibus to do so. And then finally, we have a short 3-question survey that will pop up after we close out this webinar. We'd really appreciate it if you would just take a few moments to answer those questions.
Thanks,
and with
Danielle. And
oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. First of all, I just wanted to thank Barbara for her time and being our SME on the call today. It was great and interesting to see all those challenges. And to the 3 gentlemen that joined the panel, thank you all very much for your time and your input. I hope that everybody else that joined took away some interesting points that they can go and apply in their own universities that they may be in their area. So thank you very much.